Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's Gotanye service. Gotanye is the celebration of Shinran Shonin's birth. This was started fairly actually recently in the 20th century. And so today what we had is the junior YBA go ahead and set up the Onaijing and actually carry out the service today. And they did a fantastic job. So everything in the Onaijing has been set up by the junior YBA, right? So it's very nice. They did a very good job today, and I hope that it was very fruitful and that they learned a lot. Thank you for doing that. So Shinran Shonin is the first of all, I'd like to ask the audience, actually, the Sangha today, who is Shinran Shonin? Actually, can you point out where Shinran Shonin is? Let's go with a junior Y, actually. Where is Shinran Shonin? We set up the Onaijing. Where is... Oh, yeah, Krista, I saw your finger first. Yes. Which one on the right? There's two on the right. Okay, great. Yeah, so she said the one right in front of the flowers. I don't know if probably the camera won't pick that up, but it's the immediate right to Amida Buddha. Everything in the Onaijing is in reference to Amida Buddha. So the right of Amida Buddha. Technically, it's actually the left of Amida Buddha because to Amida Buddha, it's the left, right? So, but that makes things very confusing, and so and when you're looking at it, it's on the right, an immediate right. Does anybody know the years of Shinran Shonin? This one's kind of tough. This one's a little bit tough. Anybody know the years of Shinran? It could be anybody. Anybody. Yeah. Okay. Kind of close. Kind of close. So Chan says 1,000. Common Era 1,000. Okay. Oh, 1173. Yeah, 1173. That's correct. Yeah. Thank you very much, Judy and Amy. So 1173. You're off by 100 years or so, but so somewhat in the general area. So the 12th century is a good way to remember that. 1173 to 1263. Okay, 1263. So he lives for a very long time, and he lives in what's called the Kamakura era of Japan, the Kamakura period of Japan. And this is the era where it gets very hectic. There's a lot of wars being fought during this time. The capital moves from Kyoto over to the Kamakura area, which is why it's called the Kamakura area. So Kamakura is just south of Tokyo, or what they called Edo at the time. So let's see, what's over at Kamakura? Kamakura has a big statue of Amida Buddha. And then Yokohama's not too far from there. So this is where Perry in the 20th century comes over, Commodore Perry, and forces Japan to open its doors to trade with the outside world. Anyway, that's history stuff. So 12th century is the way to remember Shinran Shonin, okay? There's another place where Shinran Shonin is located in this temple. Does anybody know? Another place. Oh, yeah. Okay, good job, Paul. Remember, in the temple, okay? In the temple. Yeah, okay. Back in the foyer, okay? That's where the statue of Shinran Shonin is located, okay? So that's what he looks like, okay? Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, it was the beginning slide of the service today. So it's very beautiful and donated by which family again? Shibata family. Yeah, thank you very much, Shibata family. Very rippana, goripana, dozo desu ne. So Shinran Shonin loses his father and mother at a very young age, okay? So losing one's mother, I think, it has a big impact on a lot of people. And Shakyamuni Buddha also loses his mother, Queen Maya, at a very young age, okay, at birth, okay, so he doesn't know his biological mother, and his aunt, Prajapati, takes care of him. He doesn't know his aunt, so I know this definitely had a huge impact on his life, and it helped to guide him to the Buddha Dharma. So likewise with Shinran Shonin, he loses his parents, okay, at a very young age. His father kind of, I don't know if he dies or it just goes missing or is not nowhere to be found, okay. So he is, so he's basically an orphan at the age at a very young age, right? So there's this very empty feeling I think he has in his heart and a longing for what he eventually comes to, the world of great compassion, right? So basically, he was looking to fill this void, how to answer his question of life, okay? And that's where he embarks on his spiritual journey. So at 9 years old, he goes to get ordination, okay? So at 9 years old, he goes to become a monk, and he loses his secular life, so to speak. No more Nintendo Switch, no more gohan, eating meat and all these things. No more in and out, right? At a young age, right? So he, at 9 years old, can you imagine that? It's so famous that he goes to a Tendai temple, and then he says, I want to attain, or I want to go through ordination. And then the priest there, Jichin-san, he says, no, well, let's wait until tomorrow, is what he says, okay? Let's think about this. Let's sit on it for a little bit, think about it. Because he doesn't think he's serious. He's a young boy. How does this young boy be serious about becoming a priest or a monk, right? And so he says, let's think about this just for a night. And then so Shinran Shonin is famous to have said the following poem, okay? So he says, cherry blossoms that are thought to last till the morrow may well blow away during the night, okay? So he says this very impactful poem. Cherry blossoms that are thought to last till the morrow may well blow away during the night. Right? So basically he says, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring us. Please give me tonsure and allow me to be a priest tonight as soon as possible, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring us. So this Tendai priest is very impressed with this, and so that night ordains young Shinran Shonin, okay? So Shinran Shonin then goes to 20 years, spends 20 years on this mountain called Mount Hiei, doing very rigorous practices, and is unable to attain enlightenment. He tries and tries and tries, and is utterly frustrated, does not know what to do with his life, and he is a very well learned scholar monk, and he is on his way to the top, actually, within the ranks of the Tendai monks, but he is dissatisfied. He is unsatisfied with not being able to attain enlightenment, and this is where he decides to come down the mountain, and then I will stop there, and the rest is history, okay? So I just wanted to slowly just interject his life story of why Shinran Shonin was such a great person. We will go into more details about his life as in the weeks to come, but that's the kind of introductory story that I wanted to give you guys, okay? That he was a great monk who becomes dissatisfied with his practice and then comes down the mountain, okay? So I asked all the junior Y students today to come up with a question that they wanted to ask me. So kind of like an open-ended discussion today that all of you in the Sangha will be able to witness and think about as we think about together. So let's go down the row and then just see what questions that you have. Which side do you want to start from? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, very good questions. Okay, so for the Zoom folks out there, the question by Josie was, what's the significance of the different ornaments that are in the Onaijin? And then the other thing is, I had her go up and light the candle and the incense, and when I told her to do that, you have to go right, left, right, Logically, it would just be better just to go start on one side and go down the line, right? Why do you go right, left, right? And so that was the question. So to answer the first question, everything in the Onaijin is known as adornments, is what's called adornments. These are all things that are depicted in what's called the Three Pure Land Sutras. So in the sutras, the Pure Land is depicted as to having these ornaments. So everything, these ornaments, what we call adornments, but what everyday people might call ornaments, are things that represent the Pure Land, okay? So, for example, the obvious one is light, right? Light from the candle is supposed to represent the wisdom of the Buddha. The flowers, this is supposed to represent the compassion of the Buddha, and also the impermanence of life as the flowers wither away, right? So we have wisdom and compassion, the two pillars of Mahayana Buddhism, okay? The other thing, these, let's see, what else? The yoraku, these little like castle-like things, those are traditionally, back in the day, okay, Okay, so traditionally, very noble people, nobility would be under these umbrellas because in like India or China, it's very hot, right? So when the nobility class would walk, there would be servants that would provide this big umbrella, right? And on these umbrellas, they would have these tassel-like things, right? These ornaments that are on the corners of the umbrella. Okay, so that is what that is. The corner to give it a decoration, basically. We call it adornments, again, to say that what's in the center here is a sugoi hito, amazing person, right? The Buddha is here in the center, right? That kind of thing is to represent that. There are different ornaments. If you look at this lantern, chrysanthemum, right? Chrysanthemum is very key in Buddhism. It's a flower that we often use. The flowers are actually chrysanthemum, the violet ones. Okay, let's see. And then, so let's move on to the next question then, the lighting of the candles, right, left, right, left. Right, again, is to signify if there is to be a hierarchy, right, is considered to be more good, on the side of the good, the noble, and that kind of thing. So we start with the right, and then left, just to show that Shinran Shonin is what we give praise and reverence to more than the others. Not more than the others, but immediately first. Okay. There is also an issue of the scrolls. Some temples will have the scrolls switched, but we can discuss that some other time. Okay. That involves political conversation. So in Japan, okay, Japanese politics. Okay. But anyway, let's see. Okay, so let's go with another question. Let's go down the line. Sorry about that. It took a long time for that. Kara-chan, hi. Okay, so this is Shinran Shonin here to the immediate right of Amida Buddha when you're looking at it. Okay, over to the left here, the immediate left is Renyo Shonin. Renyo Shonin is the 8th head priest of the Nishi Honganji, or the Honganji, I should say. Okay, so Renyo Shonin lived in the 15th century, and if it wasn't for this person, the Honganji would have probably died out. Okay, so because it was on a kind of a bit of a downslide, and it wasn't as popular anymore as it once was. But then Yoshoni comes along, and through his charisma and propagation, makes Japan or makes Jodo Shinshu flourish throughout Japan. Okay, and if it wasn't for him, definitely Jodo Shinshu would not have made it out to America. Okay, so the next person over here on the immediate right, who looks like a female, right, to us, but is actually a male, is Shotokutaishi, Prince Shotoku. Okay, is a person who is said to have brought Buddhism and popularized Buddhism in Japan. Okay, and he was a very important person that Shinran Shonin greatly respected. So we say right now, right, if it wasn't for Renyo, Jodo Shinshu would not be here in America. Well, Shinran Shonin said if it wasn't for Prince Shotoku, Buddhism would not be in Japan. Okay, on the far left are the 7 Pure Land Masters. These are the people who Shinran greatly respected, to have said that these are the people who brought the Nembutsu teaching down the line through the generations from India to China to Japan, okay? From Shakyamuni Buddha, okay? So from Shakyamuni, it goes to the 7 Pure Land Masters, and down the line through the history and through the span of the Asian continent, and it comes to Japan, to Shinran, and then from Japan to here in America now, okay? So those are the 7 Pure Land Masters, okay? And of course, the center is Amida Buddha, okay? Amida Buddha. All right, so let's go to the next question. Oh, okay. How do I stay away from distractions? Oh, it's 難しいね. That's a hard. Oh, yes, yes, yes. How do I stay away from distractions, ね? Yeah. Well, this is more of an issue with morality, right? This is an issue more of implementing the tools that were given to us throughout childhood into college, right? So when you go to college, it's kind of like the freestyle, if you will, of wrestling. I did wrestling back in the day. There are less rules. Then the rules have to be imposed upon yourself. You have to impose those rules on yourself, right? And so this is the testing ground. Right? So everything up until high school, your parents have probably told you what to do, and probably suggested to you what is the proper way to live, right? And so when you go off to college, there will be a lot of different other temptations and things that will pull you aside to distract you from what it is that you need to do in college. But you have to remember that what you were raised with, the tools that you were raised with, and to use those tools to impose upon yourself what is the proper way of life. Okay, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is key on saying we do not tell you how to live your life. Okay, you have to take the principles and employ them through your own value system. You have to filter them through your value system and then implement Buddhist values through your value system. I'm going to be talking about the issue of abortion in the next talk, but this is precisely the point. Okay, that in this religion, we don't tell you how to live, okay? Yeah, and that's the key. So it's up to you then to figure out what is the proper way to live as a Buddhist. Okay, good luck. Okay, next person. I struggle with that every day. I'm 37 years old. Yumi-chan. Yeah. You asked some very difficult questions, and it will take a whole semester, right? Yeah, to answer this question. So how do I answer this in a nutshell? Oh, so for the Zoom folks, yes, and everybody here in the audience, how? Oh my gosh, so how do we, what sets Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, apart from the other schools of Buddhism? Because I know that there's a lot of different other schools of Buddhism, and Buddhism is not a monolithic tradition, right? Meaning that there isn't just one kind of Buddhism. There's many different forms of Buddhism. What sets us apart from the other schools of Buddhism? The other thing is, what kind of, how can you tell that there's cultural elements and aspects mixed into this religion? Okay, so I will try my best to answer that question very quickly, which is to say that Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is different from the other traditions because in the other traditions, they emphasize jiriki, okay? They emphasize self-power practices, okay? Self-power practices, and then on the flip side to that, Jodo Shinshu emphasizes tariki, other power, okay? Other power. And so jiriki is basically this idea that if I do the prescriptive practices that were told to me how I should do them, then like, for example, chanting sutras day in and day out, circumambulating the Buddha through this practice of walking around the statue of the Buddha, memorizing sutras, writing sutras down, right? And chanting sutras through hours on end. For some schools, they repeat the nembutsu over and over again. These are self-power practices, right? But in our tradition, what Shinran came to understand is that he realized the futility in these practices. And basically, the futility is that he relied on himself to be able to attain enlightenment. And then what he realized was that there is a greater reality that is actually speaking to him, and that he has to then learn to listen to that reality that is speaking to him. And that is the teaching of tariki, and the teaching of other power. And so that's what kind of sets us apart from the other traditions, the emphasis of this other power. So in other words, basically, other traditions basically try to reach for truth, okay? But in Jodo Shinshu, we say that truth is not something to reach and grab and make ours and possess. Truth is something that's always been here at our footstep. It's always speaking to us. It's not something for us to hold and make ours, right? It's something that embraces us, is much greater than our control. And that's what Shinran Shonin came to understand. On the cultural aspects, the cultural elements is, for example, bowing is one of the biggest ones, right? Bowing as a sign of reverence and respect. Gassho, right? Gassho is a very important posture that we can learn, right? In terms of realizing that we are embraced in this one true reality. That this gassho and this bowing posture is very important. There are many, many more. Yeah, and so I think I'll stop there in the interest of time. Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Kristen. Gold. Thank you for pointing that out. So that time. So what is the symbolism of gold in the onaijin? Why is there so much gold depicted? So this ties in with the same question I think Josie had about the onaijin. Gold is talked about in the larger sutra. In the larger sutra, because gold is considered the most kind of, it doesn't rust. It is the precious metal, right? And at that time, back in the day, in ancient India, or in ancient Egypt and many cultures, right, gold was the most important and precious metal, right? And so, as this supreme quality, then what the sutra said is that the Pure Land is this supreme quality. And not only is it the supreme quality, everything is gold, okay? Everyone is gold-like quality. What this means is that it says that everybody is literally gold, right? But what it's really trying to say is that everybody is the supreme quality. Everybody is equal, okay? Everybody is equal in the eyes of the Buddha, and that's why everything is depicted in gold, right? And then also when we come in, when we immediately see the gold onaiji, we think to ourselves, oh, this is a sacred spot, right? This is a sacred area. I should treat it with a certain degree of respect, right? It's not something that I'm gonna just kind of, treat very haphazardly and very kind of, very roughly, right? It's something that we'll treat with respect, right? And so that's why it naturally gives us this feeling of reverence towards this area, this sacred area. So that's why everything is depicted in gold. It's talked about by the Buddha. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, and then last one. Yeah. The fruit? Okay, fruit. Okay, what does the fruit represent? Okay, so the fruit, it's hard to see in the camera, but there is an offering made for fruit, and then usually with the other kinds of offering would be omanju, okay, sweets, okay. Other kinds of offering, like sometimes if you go to Japan, there will be bags of rice here. Bags of rice. There'll be bottles of sake here, okay. What else will there be? It's back in the day, so Jodo Shinshu temples flourished in the rural areas, the countryside, okay. And these are the areas where there were a lot of farmers. And so what they offered to the Buddha, it's an offering to the Buddha, basically, an old tradition that continued on since the time of the historical Buddha 2,500 years ago. And so the offering is a sign of respect. Please take this offering as to you, okay? And so now when the offerings are made, it is made to the temple for the upkeep of the temple, okay? And so now the temple receives both monetary as well as these kinds of, food and things and items as an offering to the Buddha, okay? So that's, it is a form of dana, what we call it, yeah. Okay, so that is the significance of the fruit, okay. All right, I'm so, okay, so I hope I've answered your questions today. Thank you very much for participating in today's service. And so let's please remember that about the Shinran Shonin. And I didn't get to the final point that I really wanted to say, which is that Shinran Shonin, when he literally walked down the mountain, he brought Buddhism to the masses. And that was what his biggest impact was. He said, Buddhism is for everybody. It's not just for the select few that can go to the mountain and do the rigorous practices and have the physical capability or the intellectual capability. It's for everybody. And this is what his great contribution was. And to this day, we respect and revere Shinran Shonin and what he has done for us. Okay, so thank you very much for your time today. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Today, I'm going to address something that's come up in the news lately, and so I just felt like, maybe it's probably good to share some thoughts on this, one possible outlook on the issue of この難しい話ですね、中絶の話ですけれども、on the issue of abortion ね。It's a very difficult topic to talk about. I struggled with it, thinking about this issue myself. So the recent news on the Supreme Court with Roe versus Wade, possibly, but most likely being overturned, which then will change the decision that's been in place for about close to 50 years now, and kind of really affect the state of America and the situation here. So what is the Buddhist take on this 難しい話, right, on this hard topic. So first, I should probably say that there is not a consensus on this. Okay, so what I say is probably one perspective of the Jodo Shinshu take on this issue. And so, but in my humble opinion, I think that women should have the right to make the decision that best fits her situation. And I don't think Buddhism will go to the extent of saying we should be pro-life, we should be pro-choice, and they won't say that. But I think that's okay. I think do we need to make a stance? I think we're in this country, we're prone to think that we have to make a stance on every issue. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case, because this is especially on this issue, there's a lot of very difficult positions, things to think about. And it's a very gray issue, right? And so everybody is going to have their own opinions on this matter, and so that is the freedom that Buddhism provides, right? And that's where the individual has the freedom to decide. And so, my explanation is but one of many that one can make on the side of woman's right to choose what is the best decision to make for her own body. But, it is just as easily, that someone can argue for the other side, right? And say, Buddhism says that we should be pro-life. For example, ahimsa is a key concept. It's called non-violence, right? Ahimsa っていう言葉があるんですけど、Sanskrit の言葉。And ahimsa means then that we should protect all life, and that means a fetus as well, right? So the argument can be made on that side as well, right? So there are a bunch of different positions, I think, that can be taken. And so what I'm providing today is more like a thought process of how we can possibly think of this issue. And so returning back to my original point that I mentioned to the junior YBA, is that Buddhism doesn't give a laundry list of things that you have to do to be a quote-unquote good Buddhist, right? こうしなさい、ああしなさい. You have to do this. You cannot do that. You have to think like this. You cannot think like this. Buddhism does not, or I should say, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism does not say, okay? But where is the freedom? So there's the freedom to choose. But with that freedom, then, comes the responsibility that one must bear in those decisions, right? So I say that, full well with knowing that I probably shot myself in the foot by saying that there's, with every decision, there's a freedom, but also a responsibility, because I probably did a lot of things in my life that I did not take responsibility for. But, this is what Buddhism is telling us, right? This is what's called karma, okay? Karma is a lot of people think that karma means something warikoto, like that you did, or something bad that you did, but that's not what karma is. Karma is, the deeds that you have done, the actions that you have done, both good and bad, right? And so it is the law of karma. Karma is, you have this freedom of choice, but it also comes with the responsibility of those decisions that you have made in your life, okay? And so, I believe that, one has to find his or her ethics, how to live one's life. And I told Chance this, right? That you have to find what is the proper way for you to live in your life as a Buddhist. And this religion is not going to shove a specific way of life down your throat. So Buddhism tells us through the principle of karma that freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. And I would also like to share a teaching with you that was given by Shakyamuni Buddha, right? We see pictures of Shakyamuni Buddha here. Well, Shakyamuni Buddha, in his last teaching before he died, says the following thing, okay? He says the following phrase. He says, quote, "Make of yourself a light. Rely upon yourself. Do not depend on anyone else. Make my teachings your light. Rely upon them. Do not depend upon any other teaching." And this in Japanese is a famous quote. It's called Jitomyo, Hotomyo, okay? Make of yourself a light, rely upon yourself, okay? So what this means is that, the Buddha is not saying that you should rely on yourself solely and that everybody else around you is wrong, right? That's not the point that he was trying to make. The Buddha was trying to say that through your karmic experiences, everything that happened in your life, ever since you're a little child, maybe somebody picked on you when you were a little child, or maybe you had a very loving oba-chan, right, that kind of pampered you a little bit, bachi okashi and stuff like that. And all of those experiences, right, all throughout life. Maybe you had a coworker that you didn't get along with, right, people that you didn't like, right? All of these experiences, all of your interests, your hobbies, your attachments, these are all part of your karma, right? And it is through this karma that you can come to understand the world of truth, right? In everything that you do, truth is trying to speak to you through your life experiences. And so you had to live your life the way that you did in order to experience this world of absolute truth, right? So I cannot swap with someone else, their karmic background to come to truth. I had to live my life to come to my truth, to come to this truth through my 自分が納得いくような、経験ですよね。So I had to come to this truth through the experiences in order to understand that truth, okay? So this is the principle of karma. You had to go through your karma to understand what truth is. Okay, and this is what Shinran Shonin was also trying to teach us as well. And furthermore, both good experiences and bad experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, are all without exception opportunities for you to encounter the Buddha Dharma. The Buddha Dharma speaks to us endlessly and constantly. So abortion then is another time when this truth is actually speaking to us. Right? We are shown the impermanence of life, the evanescence of life, the fragility of life, the limitations that we have as human beings, and the sufferings that come about when dealing with this issue. These are all truths that the Buddha Dharma reveals to us. And so in this way then, the abortion does not go in vain, right? But, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that, we want abortions to take place, right? But when we are thrust into these extremely difficult situations, we are suddenly brought to understand and see the deep profundity of life and death, right? And so, a lot of times people say that pro-choice people don't appreciate the sanctity of life, right? But that's not true, right? And it's thinking about the sanctity of life brings us to say, that, to think of, we can't think of any other alternatives for this fetus, right? And so we are thinking about the sanctity of life in thinking about these difficult decisions, right? So this is not a decision that the government or those in power should be making. It is a decision that the person, the individual, should be making for herself. Right? So, let me skip this part. So I'm not trying to stand here and push one political agenda over another, okay? As a minister, I'm trying to think about this issue and provide some kind of thought process on this issue. How everybody takes this will be something that they have to think about on their own, okay? So many of you might not know this, but Shinran Shonin took a wife named Eshini-sama, right? Eshini-sama. Anyway, and so when he did this at the time that he lived, this was considered blasphemous, right? He was considered, no Buddhist monk should be having a wife at the time, right? Many did, but kakurete yatteta. Yeah, it wasn't out in the front. So, but Shinran Shonin, with unashamed, openly took on a wife and was proud of that, right? And this is what we as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists are very proud of saying. We never hid away from this fact. And Shinran Shonin was the first to be very open about this. And the reason for that is because his teacher, Honen Shonin, is famous to have stated, if you have to take on a wife in order to say the Nembutsu, then take on a wife. If you have to eat meat in order to say the Nembutsu, then eat meat. Whatever you must do to get you to say the Nembutsu, to get you to understand the Nembutsu teaching you must do, is what he stated. So Shinran Shonin thinks about this and says, I will have a wife. And that's what he decides to do. And so, and it is in taking a wife and having a wife that showed him a lot of things about himself, right? A lot of things about himself. If you were to ask my wife all the things about who I am, right? She will tell you without any hesitation, right? Without any sugarcoating, what I am truly, right? So what you see in front of you right now is a presentation of myself, right? But behind closed doors, right, she'll tell you about all the bad things that I do and all the bad things I say, right? And these kinds of things, right? And so she reminds me of, the bombuness of who I am, right? And so that's, I believe, what Shinran Shonin also came to understand in having his wife Shini-sama, right? That showed him his true self, that showed him that as a monk, you might put on airs and make yourself look like you're holier than thou. You might make yourself look like you're greater than thou, but hontoa, you have these true feelings of attachments, of jikochushinteki, this what we call egocentricity, this feeling of, I am better than everybody else, right? Those kinds of true, honest feelings, Eshini-sama showed him, right? And I truly believe this, and that's what my wife shows me too, as well, right? And so he chose to do this, to have a wife, to live a life centered on Amida Buddha's great compassion. So I think it should be, in closing here, I'm trying to get to the end here, which is that it should be a matter of choice for a woman to decide for herself what she needs to do with her body. Abortion is a very difficult decision, because after all, fetus is a life, right? But I would go even further to say that, an egg is a life, right? Sperm is life, right? Trees are life. Air is life, right? Dirt is life. So again, there are times when we are thrust into difficult situations where we have to choose whether someone will live or something will die, right? We do this every day with the things that we eat in war, or when we are dealing with killing, weeds in our garden, right? Or killing invasive species like, like vines, tokane. This is a difficult world that we live in. However, whatever decision she makes, she should know that both her and the fetus are embraced in the light of Amida Buddha's great compassion, regardless of what course of action was to be taken. And this is something that we as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists must not forget when faced with this difficult discussion. I am a bombu, an ignorant, foolish being, as Shinran Shonin explains. We are so foolish that we don't even have the capacity to clearly define when life begins and when life ends, right? We are so foolish that we think that the length of time of life determines whether that person lived a full life or not, right? This is how ignorant human beings are. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Whether a person lives 600 years, 60 years, 6 years, or 6 minutes, right? All lives are equal in the eyes of the Buddha. We as human beings will then say, oh, yokatta ne, this person lived a long time, long, full life. Oh, that's very good. Meritashi, right? That's great, right? And then on the flip side, when we see someone who lived very short life, like to say 6 years old, we say, oh, such a shame. What a pity. This person did not live to have a full life, right? We apply those standards, right? Because we are ignorant beings, right? But the Buddha does not see that way. The Buddha says to everybody, how great it was that you were able to live. No matter the length, you have lived a great, full, and wonderful life. How precious you are. So the Buddha does not discriminate based on time. Every life is precious, and every life is embraced in the world of Amida Buddha's great wisdom and compassion. Isn't it great that there is a truth that'll tell us that, right? Because we can't come to that understanding. But true reality that is compassionate does come to that understanding. Everything is gold. It does not discriminate. So with that, let us remember as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, amidst this ever turbulent world that we live in, that all beings are embraced in the world of infinite wisdom and compassion. Thank you very much for your time today. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.